In today's video, we're going to go over the entire catalog of homeschool curriculum from All About Learning Press. We'll review the All About Reading program, the All About Spelling program, and the newer All About Math program. Is this a good homeschool curriculum to teach reading, spelling, and math, or should you spend your money elsewhere? Let's find out together. So first, let's just talk about what All About Learning Press is. It is a curriculum company that offers 3 separate programs: All About Reading, All About Spelling, and All About Math. Each program is sold separately, so you could do just one of their programs or you could do all 3. But since there is no social studies or science, you wouldn't be able to use this as a complete boxed curriculum. So just something to keep in mind. All of the programs are Orton-Gillingham based, which means that they use a structured multi-sensory approach. The lessons are all open and go with no lesson prep required. And the program is designed so that you are only supposed to spend about 20 minutes a day on the lessons. So this could be great for families with busy schedules. So now why don't we get into the program in more detail so you can see what it's really like. We will start with All About Reading. This is a complete reading program that teaches phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. There are 5 levels to the program, a pre-reading level and then levels 1 through 4. There is also an additional add-on that is a one-time purchase for levels 1 through 4. This includes a reading review box and letter tiles. For the letter tiles, there is also an app that you can choose to use instead of the physical tiles. But we will get into that more in a few minutes. So let's look at each of these levels in detail so you can see what comes with each one. We'll start with the pre-reading level. And just a quick note, if you need help deciding which level to start with, they do have a readiness checklist for the pre-reading level and placement tests for the other levels. So for this level, it's just going to be this readiness checklist that you can go through and check off. And if you check 9 or more boxes, then your child is ready to try this level. Of course, they may be ready for a higher level, and I'll show you what those other placement tests look like in a minute. And I will also leave links for them in the video description so you can find them easily. And if you'd rather not read through the beginning of the teacher's manual to get everything set up, they actually have instructional videos for each level that walk you through exactly how to prepare everything before you start your first lesson. So that's an option too if you're more of a visual learner or just want to see it done before you try it yourself. But if you do decide this is the level for you, here is what you get. The entire program is $119.95, which is not a bad price for a full year program. You can also buy these items individually if you choose to. It includes the teacher's manual, student packet, a puppet which is used in the lessons, 2 read-aloud books, and some additional materials that are needed for the lessons. There are also optional upper and lowercase letter craft books that you can add on if you wish. For these levels, you do not need the letter tiles or the reading review box. This level can be used by any age student who needs to work on their pre-reading and phonological awareness skills. And if you take a look at the scope and sequence, you will see that kids will be learning all the capital and lowercase letters, rhyming, some letter sounds, and some other pre-reading skills. So the idea here is that once a child completes this program, they would be ready for level 1 of All About Reading. If you take a look at the sample from the teacher's manual, you can see all the items you are going to need to teach this course, most of which are included in the bundle. And then if we take a look at a lesson here, you can see that it's going to tell you exactly which books or supplies you will need and exactly what you need to do. So the only real prep needed is to gather the materials. And then you just go through this and do what it tells you. I really do appreciate open and go programs like this. And here are some samples from the student book. There are some craft activities with the letters. And when I was picking a reading program for my twins, this is actually what turned me off to picking this program. I do not like having to set up crafts, but I guess it may be a good way to really help kids get to know their letters. If your child already knows all their letters, then you probably would not want to start with this level. Okay, so now let's look at level 1. So now, if you're not sure where to start, you would do this placement test. This is the same placement test for levels 1 through 4. If your child knows all their letters and sounds but can't read words yet, then they are going to suggest level 1. But definitely go through this placement test with your child and answer the questions honestly so you can pick the right level. So for level 1, the bundle is a bit more expensive at $159.95. It includes the teacher's manual, a student packet, and 3 readers. But as I mentioned before, you are also going to need the reading review box and the letter tiles. These can be used for the rest of the levels though, and the letter tiles can be used for more than one student. So you won't need to buy these again when you get to level 2. So let me actually explain what these 2 things are, since I'm going to be mentioning them a lot throughout the rest of the video. The reading review box is basically just a storage box with divider cards in it. It's used to organize all of your child's flashcards. Every lesson starts with a quick review. So instead of digging through a pile of cards each day, you set the box up once with numbered dividers, and then you sort your phonogram cards and word cards behind the right dividers as you go. As your child masters certain cards, you move them to a different section of the box. So it's really just a system to keep everything organized and make the daily review part of the lesson quick and easy, instead of a mess every single day. The letter tiles are a different thing entirely. These are physical tiles, kind of like Scrabble tiles, that your child uses to build words and practice the concepts they're learning in each lesson. They are color-coded too, so consonants are one color, vowels are another, and there are also some other categories. You set these up on a magnetic whiteboard, or you can just use them on a table if you don't have a whiteboard. And as your child moves through the levels, you'll gradually add more tiles to the board, since not every tile is needed right away. And as I mentioned, there's also an app version of the letter tiles if you don't want to deal with the physical pieces. With the app, you don't have to worry about losing tiles. You can hear the phonogram sounds played for you, and it's easy to take lessons on the go. But the physical tiles have their own benefits too. There's no tablet required, the tiles are larger and easier to see, and some kids just learn better with something hands-on rather than learning through a screen. So it really comes down to what works best for you and your child. Some families even use a mix of both. You can also buy the materials individually if you need to. And there are some optional games and review books that you can add on. If you are teaching more than one student at the same time, you would buy the bundle plus an additional student packet and an additional reading review box. If you choose to use the Letter Tiles app, the cost is $19.99. But just so you know, it is only available for tablets and touch-enabled Chromebooks, not phones, since the tiles would just be too small to actually use on a phone screen. And one more thing I want to mention before we get into the actual content. Beyond the 20 minutes that you spend on the lesson itself, the program also requires you to spend 20 minutes daily read aloud time with your child. So that is on top of the 20 minutes that you are supposed to spend each day on the lessons. This is meant to build reading comprehension and vocabulary skills outside of the formal lessons. But it's just something that you need to factor in if you're trying to figure out how this is going to fit into your homeschool schedule. Looking at the scope and sequence here, you can see that students are going to be learning letter sounds and blending, as well as some facts about sentences, some reading comprehension, and more important, beginning reading skills. The teacher manual is going to tell you everything that you're going to need to teach the course, and it's going to walk you through exactly what to do step by step for each lesson. So there is kind of a lot involved with the phonogram and word cards and the letter tiles, but it does tell you exactly what to do. So all you really need to do to prepare is just gather the right materials. And then it looks like the student activity book includes a lot of cutting things out, and I don't actually see any handwriting practice. I think this is another reason I didn't ultimately choose this for my twins, because you are going to need to have your child practice writing the letters as well, and that is not part of this program. But anyway, that is what level 1 of All About Reading is like. Level 2 is the same price for the bundle as level 1, And if you're just starting with this level, then you will need to also get the reading review box and letter tiles. And if you are teaching multiple students at this level, they will need their own reading review box and student packet. But remember, you only need one reading review box per student for the entire 4 levels. So if you had 2 students learning level 1 and you bought them each a reading review box, they won't need another one for level 2. Just a new student packet for the second student. And the readers themselves are reusable too. So once your first child finishes a level, you can hand those same books down to a sibling without buying new ones. Since the readers aren't consumable, only the student packet is. In this level, students will advance to learning 3-letter blends, the silent E, and decoding multi-syllable words. And then, just like before, for each lesson, you are going to gather the required materials and then follow along and do what it tells you to do step by step. And the only thing that I would say makes this not entirely open and go is that there are things that parents need to read before they start teaching the lesson. This is for you to read to yourself to better understand what you are going to be teaching. So to me, that makes it not entirely open and go, but it's not that much to read. But these lessons definitely look a bit longer than they did for level 1. But remember, you are only supposed to be spending 20 minutes a day on the lessons, even if you don't finish them. You just stop at 20 minutes and pick up where you left off the next day. And there are still plenty of things in the student books that have to be cut out, as you can see. Level 3 is going to follow the same exact pattern, but your child will just be learning more advanced early reading skills. They will be learning phonograms, reading more advanced words, learning more word decoding skills, and so on. And these lessons look longer as well, but remember, you are only supposed to spend about 20 minutes a day on this, and then another 20 minutes of actual reading time. So don't let the length of the lessons put you off. There's still some cutting in the student activity book and still no writing practice at all. But they are learning more words, phrases, and sentences now. So you can see there is definitely a progression in skills through the levels. Finally, level 4 is the last level of the All About Reading program. And this is just building on the skills that kids have already learned. They'll be learning new decoding skills, practicing fluency, learning new vocabulary words, and practicing reading comprehension. The format of the program is still the same, and the price is the same as well. You'll still be getting a teacher's manual, a student packet, and 2 reading books. And the student activities still involve a lot of cutting. The words and reading material is just more advanced now. Okay, so hopefully that gave you a good overview of what to expect from the All About Reading program. Now let's switch over to All About Spelling. This program teaches spelling rules and multisensory strategies for spelling success. And there are actually 7 levels of the All About Spelling program. And just like All About Reading, this program is completely scripted and open and go, so you don't need to do any lesson prep other than just gathering the required materials. There is also a placement test that you can do on their website to help you determine which level to start with. I'll leave that link for you in the video description below so you can find it easily. And just like with reading, there's also a video walkthrough if you'd rather watch how to get set up instead of reading through it yourself in the teacher's manual. So let's start by looking at level 1. The cost of this program is $64.95, which I think is pretty reasonable. You will also need 1 spelling review box per student, but this can be reused for all of the levels of All About Spelling. This works basically the same way as the reading review box I explained earlier, just instead of organizing 2 types of flashcards, you're organizing 4. There are phonogram cards, sound cards, rule cards, and word cards. And they're each color-coded, so it's easy to keep them separated as you sort them behind the dividers. So if you're teaching more than 1 student, the teacher's manual is reusable, but each child will need their own student packet and their own spelling review box. The same setup we talked about with reading. And you will need the letter tiles, either the physical tiles or the app. These are the same letter tiles that are used for All About Reading. So if you already have them for that program, then you won't need to purchase them again. The All About Spelling program for level 1 comes with a teacher's manual and student packet. There are also additional review books that you can purchase if you choose to. Students at this level will be learning the first 26 phonograms, vowels rules, short vowel sounds, and various other spelling skills. In the Parents Manual, you will need to read the short before you begin section before you actually start teaching the lesson. And then you will follow along with the book and do exactly what it tells you for each lesson. And just like we saw with All About Reading, you are only supposed to spend 20 minutes on this. So it's okay if you need to spread the lesson out over multiple days. I also want to mention that this program works for older kids too, not just early elementary. Starting at level 2, there's an advanced application section at the end of most lessons. So if you have an older or remedial student who already knows how to spell simple words, they can practice the same concept using harder, multi-syllable words instead of doing exercises that might feel too easy or too young for them. And just like with reading, the levels here build on each other all the way up through level 7, which is the final level. By that point, kids are working on things like knowing when to keep or drop a silent E before adding a suffix, and rules for suffixes like ANCE versus ENCE, so it gets pretty specific and advanced by the end. The student book looks very similar to the student books for All About Reading. So I just hope you have a good sharp pair of scissors for this, or maybe one of those paper cutter things. I don't remember what they are called, but I hope you know what I mean. And honestly, there isn't much difference in the format or layout of any of the different levels here. If you've been paying attention, then you should have a good understanding by now of how this program works. As far as pricing, the rest of the levels stay in a similar range to level 1, so you're not going to see a huge price jump as you go through the levels. The only one important thing to mention is that levels 1 through 4 are the newer color version of the program, and levels 5 through 7 are black and white. So it's going to look a little different. They do claim that they are creating color versions of those black and white levels, but I'm not sure when those are going to be available. And now let's talk about All About Math. This is a newer program that was released in 2024 and currently has 4 levels of the program, although level 5 is in development as of the date of this video. And just like with the other programs from All About Learning Press, there is a placement test that you can use to help you determine which level to start with. And just like with reading and spelling, there's also a video walkthrough if you'd rather watch how to get everything set up instead of reading through it. Level 1 costs $119.95 and includes the student and teacher books. You will also need to purchase the manipulatives kit separately, but you can reuse this kit for all of the levels and for multiple students, so it is a one-time purchase. The kit comes with things like counting bears, connecting cubes, 2 color counters, base 10 blocks, a ruler, and a dry erase pocket. Each tool in the kit is tied to a specific concept. So the counting bears are used for basic counting and early addition and subtraction. The connecting cubes get used for things like place value and even measurement once your child starts comparing the lengths of objects. The 2 color counters help kids understand how numbers combine to make 10. And the base 10 blocks are there to make place value and regrouping easier to visualize once they get into bigger numbers. And just like with the other 2 programs, if you're teaching more than one child, the teacher's manual and the manipulatives kit are both reusable. You'll just need an additional student packet for each child. In All About Math Level 1, students will be learning math concepts from kindergarten through part of 1st grade. It focuses on building number sense and an understanding of the base 10 system, starting with counting and progressing through adding and subtracting 2-digit numbers, with story problems included as well. The teacher's manual is very similar to the All About Reading and All About Spelling teacher's manuals. So if you are using all 3 programs, it will be nice and familiar to you. It's fully scripted and open and go with just the short before you begin section to read at the start of the lesson. And I don't know why I'm surprised, but yes, there are things that need to be cut out in the student books. But there are also places to write answers, so that at least is a little different. It's definitely very hands-on. And you'll be told exactly when you need to use the different manipulatives so you won't have to guess. One thing that's a little different here compared to reading and spelling is that at the end of each lesson there is a math reflection section where your child is prompted to actually explain their thinking out loud, not just write down an answer. So it's not just about getting the right answer, it's about being able to talk through how they got there, which I think is a nice way to catch any gaps in understanding before moving on. All About Math Level 2 is the same price as Level 1, and you won't need to buy the manipulatives kit again unless you're just starting with this level. Here, students will be learning to read and write numbers through 1,000, understanding place value through hundreds, adding and subtracting within 1,000, using addition and subtraction within 100 to solve word problems, fluently adding and subtracting within 20, measuring and estimating length, working with time and money, recognizing and drawing shapes, and partitioning circles and rectangles into equal shapes. The teacher's manual follows the same open and go scripted format that we've seen before, and it will tell you exactly what you need for each lesson and when you need to use them. But the student book now has a lot more actual math problems to do, which I think is good. But there is most definitely still some stuff you need to cut out. All About Math Level 3 is going to follow the same price and pattern as the levels before it. And here, students are working with typical third grade content, building on those earlier skills with more advanced word problems and getting into some early multiplication and division concepts. Level 4 then moves into things like fractions, using the same hands-on manipulatives along with more advanced multi-digit operations. So just like with reading and spelling, there's a clear progression here. Kids aren't just repeating the same skills at every level. Make sure you're starting with the right level and read through the beginning of the teacher's guide so you understand everything. There are also a bunch of free resources on the All About Learning Press website, and I would definitely check out that page whether or not you end up buying a curriculum from the company. You can also find some free printables of extra copies of the progress charts and certificates of achievement. And if you end up trying out any of these programs and deciding it's not a good fit for your family, they have an amazing 12-month money-back guarantee, minus the cost of shipping. So you could literally do the whole program, decide that you didn't like it, and get most of your money back. So I really hope this video helped you understand all of the different programs from All About Learning Press. Whether you're looking for a reading, spelling, or math program, they've got you covered. And if you're looking for an open and go program where everything is all planned out for you and all you really have to do is gather the materials and follow along, then this might be a great option for you. It's reasonably priced for what you get, and you don't need to have any teaching experience in order to use this program successfully. On the other hand, you might find it a bit confusing with all of the different materials that go along with it. Even though it tells you exactly what to do, I find this type of program to be a little bit stressful, especially when you're teaching multiple kids. I guess once you get some practice doing this every day, it will probably become second nature. And I know a lot of kids really do love this type of hands-on learning. But I just don't know about all of that cutting. I don't know what I would do if I saw one more dotted line in those workbooks. I also don't know how I feel about the fact that the reading program doesn't include any handwriting. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments and I will be happy to answer. Thank you so much for watching.